that young thug. I think it's very interesting to see who is speaking out about Zaya Wade. Now, here's the thing. Many of you have expressed that, Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union have made it everyone's business to share their experience having a daughter who is in the transitioning process and who wants to be referred to as Zaya, and who, has made the decision at a very young age that she is aware of who she is. I think it's very interesting to see all of the folks who have coming out and given their opinion about it. Now, here's the thing that I know. I feel like the opinion is there to be given because they made it a public knowledge about what was happening. I don't think that they did that for the solicitation of opinions and advice. I do think they did it to shine a light on the fact that this is happening in African American homes as well. And we struggle with our own issues of transphobia and homophobia. Most trans women that are killed are Black. And, I definitely feel like their reasoning behind wanting to share their experience was not so that you guys can chime in with your ignorance. I think it's been really interesting to see all of the people, the young lady from Empire, whatever the fuck her name is. I don't even know. She wants to give her opinion. Bootsy, who thinks that it's appropriate to have his, young teenage son get slobbed on the knob by several women and have sex with women. He thinks that's appropriate, but he finds it inappropriate for Zaya to be who she wants to be. Young Thug, who donned a dress on one of his album covers, weighed in this week and said, "All I want to say to D Wade's son is God don't make mistakes. But hey, live your true self." All I want to say is that this young lady is going to, in fact, live her true self. And I think that we've watched Young Thug do that, dressed however the fuck he wants, saying whatever he wants, taking all kind of drugs. And, if you think that that is appropriate, but you think that this young lady living her life in the way that she decides to, given the time that she is here on this earth, is somewhat inappropriate, well, then I don't want to support anybody like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to buy into anything like that, especially if you're doing it in a way of saying it's okay for me to express myself creatively, but it's not okay for this young lady to live in the skin that she wants to live in. Listen, I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is your experience here. This is your experience here. Regardless of anybody's opinions or what other people may want for you or what other people may think for you, your time here on earth is just that, your time. And if you are not living it in the way that is most authentic to you, it is a waste of time. So, all right, let's go ahead. Let's take a quick break and then let's come back for the setting of the table. And this week's setting of the table is you are not alone. We'll be back. All right. And we are back. So I wanted to speak this week and set the table for the idea that, you are not alone. And what to do when you feel that, whatever your religious affiliation is, but when you feel like there is an absence of understanding by God, or that God has abandoned you, or that you are otherwise in this world on your own because no one gets you. I wanted to speak to that. And one of the reasons why I often choose the subjects that I do in terms of setting the table. One of the reasons why I choose the subjects that I do is mostly because it is something that I may be going through at the time or what have you. So for me, I feel like one of the great things about this podcast is that I have been able to meet other people who are just like me and speak to other people who may in fact be going through the same things that I'm going through. And so one of the things, again, that I wanted to talk about was, what do you do when you feel like God is not there? Or when you feel like you're alone? One of the jobs of the enemy, whether it is the enemy within or the enemy exterior, however you see it, is to convince you that you are alone. Your destiny and your calling and your walk of path and how you're going to get there is oftentimes predicated on, someone giving you the yes, or someone taking mercy on you and saying, you know what? Yeah, you deserve this opportunity. You deserve this chance. Anytime that you are going into a new frontier in life, or you're adopting a new idea, or you're kind of dawning on a new tasks, it's always a hard time, because I think that is the time that you feel most in the wilderness, so to speak. So how do you handle the stress of it all? How do you become the person that you are supposed to be while walking this path, this unfamiliar path of feeling like you are doing it alone? On top of it being unfamiliar, there is this also place that no one understands what you're going through. Listen, if you've never bought gas on credit because you just didn't have enough money in your account, but you needed that gas, somebody's not going to understand that. If you've never driven somewhere where your fuel tank said, "You're low, girl. You're low, homie." If you've never used your Metro card, and, if you don't live in New York, the Metro card is the way to get around on public transportation. If you've not had that one fare, and we're completely getting around with the idea that, okay, I can run upstairs, I can go to the other side. At least I don't have to pay another fare because I only got one fare on here, and shit is looking real alone out here. Then you may not understand what I'm talking about. I think that discovering that you're not by yourself is oftentimes part of the journey and the purpose of getting to your destiny. And a lot of times it is one of the hardest times for you to feel connected to your creator, but one of the most necessary times for you to feel like you should be getting connected to your creator. I am someone who went to private schools, religious private schools. And so I'm very familiar with different stories in the Bible, walking through the wilderness and God making them wait for 40 days and 40 nights. I'm very familiar with all of those stories, but I never thought that those stories would hit me. It is in those moments where the silence is often permeable and you are feeling most alone and people are kind of falling away out of your life that you could feel like, is this a curse? But that is contrary to what it actually is. It is a blessing. See, distractions often come to serve as just that, a distraction from you getting to where you have to go. So oftentimes when you are on your journey and there's lots of friends and lots of parties and lots of drugs and lots of alcohol around you, you feel great because, well, there's all these distractions. But there are moments in the wilderness where those distractions fall away, where there's nothing else left but you and God. And I feel like specifically for me, I am definitely going through one of those moments where I felt like, all right, God, it's me, Margaret. Do you hear me? Nothing's happening. The phone isn't ringing. Money isn't coming in. As we ascend upon this week, Wednesday, which is Ash Wednesday, and we kind of get into this holy time of giving up things, Lent, I've decided that I was going to slow down on some things because I never want to be in a place where, smoking weed or drinking is a distraction for me to not think about how lonely I am. But I came to realize this week that it wasn't about me being lonely. It was about me being alone and being in my wilderness phase of my life. And if you know anything about the story of the Bible and the wilderness phase, you know that something greater is to come on the other side. But it is kind of getting through that phase. How do you do it? So I wanted to, I don't often have the answers in terms of what do you do specifically in your life? Because a lot of the things that I do may in fact only be for me, but I'm hoping that it is there to serve a purpose and it is there to help you. The Bible talked about the Israelites in the Old Testament being in the wilderness for 40 years. And the wilderness, if you follow it, you would think like, oh, they were in the woods, right? But it was really more about them being in isolation. It was more about them on the cusp of danger and divine and deliverance. It was more about them being on the cusp of renewal and in revelation. For those of you who would be interested, this happened in the book of Exodus. How do you get delivered from feeling like you're alone? Well, the first step for me was just acknowledging who God is. Not just who he is in general, but who he is for me. I've never seen him forsake me in my time of need. So with that said, I had to kind of dig deeper into the idea of, all right, so God, I am asking you to inhabit and, listen, even if you don't subscribe to God, even if you don't subscribe to Allah, to Jah, whoever, but there is a point that we all reach where we reach the wilderness of our life, so to speak. So outside of just acknowledging who he is, I had to ask for his presence. I had to create this place where I know that God